Hello and welcome back to this final edition of our Mojave Preserve adventure, our trip out into the Cima Dome to help the National Park System with the restoration of Joshua trees from the horrific 2020 Cima Dome fire. In the last two episodes, Gerry and I, with the help of other volunteers, took a drive way out across the Mojave Desert to plant Joshua tree seedlings on the slope of the Cima Dome. In today's episode, we head back out to the Valley View Ranch and meet up with some additional volunteers for one last day of adventure. This was almost the last day of the restoration project for the spring. Out here in the Mojave Desert, it gets hot early, and it's not uncommon for temperatures to reach into the 90s or even the low 100s as early as April. Far too warm to expect volunteers to haul heavy supplies and 40 pounds of water across the hot desert sand. Drew Kaiser, the National Park Service botanist in charge of the restoration, had saved his last allotment of Joshua tree seedlings of the spring planting and was getting down to his last few. Since volunteers had planned on planting through tomorrow, Drew told us he'd saved just enough for the new volunteers. He asked us if we didn't mind just doing watering duty today. That was to haul water out to the Joshua trees that were planted on a previous session back in December. It's a ways out there, he said, another 3 miles each way, but of course we were up for it. I asked Drew where the National Park System got their seedlings and were they grown locally or purchased from a commercial supplier. Drew told me the seedlings were produced and grown at a private nursery in Nevada right on the shores of Lake Mead. Now, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the nursery, but I did locate the Song Dog Nursery on Lakeshore Drive inside the Lake Mead National Recreation Area. According to their website, they're a private nursery not open to the public where plants are grown for the National Park System restoration projects like this one, so I bet that's the one. Drew told me another interesting fact. He said the seedlings that we planted yesterday and the ones remaining on the trailer today are 3 years old, and it's taken them this long to get to the size where they are today for transplanting, and if they don't reach maturity for another 20 years. Wow. We woke up to a cold but clear morning in the desert at our Mojave Cross camp. After a quick breakfast and a cup of coffee, Gerry and I loaded up our camping supplies because we weren't returning here after our session today. Diana, on the other hand, was staying an extra day and decided to just leave her tent erected so she could not only save her campsite for tonight, but not have to take down the tent and then put it all back up again this afternoon. When all was packed up and breakfast was eaten, we caravanned back to the Orange Cone and drove slowly up the dirt road to the Valley View Ranch. When we arrived, we immediately noticed that this was going to be a busy day, as over 20 vehicles were scattered about the dirt parking area and staged along the access road to the ranch. Since we didn't have to attend the orientation at 8 this morning, Drew told us to show up at 9. As the orientation ended, the large group of new volunteers assembled their vehicles around the trailers holding the seedlings and the white water tank to fill the water bags. Gerry, Diana, and I stood off to the side until they were done before grabbing our water bags and buckets. Well, today is Saturday, and there's significantly more people here today to help with the planting than there was yesterday. There were only 6 vehicles yesterday. This is just a handful of vehicles. There's another 8 or 9 vehicles packed into a small space down the road. Like we're down there as well. We're on the other side by the ranch. It's like a lot of the same people that we were with yesterday are here today, along with another 20 or 30 people, so it'll be busy today. Just looking at those load-carrying backpacks just made my back hurt. I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way. Now this time, Gerry had brought his larger backpack and shoved his water bags into a trash bag and shoved them inside his pack. Now Jessica said she had a larger backpack in her truck that I could use, and she brought it over. Even though it was a little small for me, it was sure better than the other alternative. That's carrying the bucket by the thin metal handle. Now Drew told us we'd be watering Joshua tree seedlings that were planted way back in December. I asked him when the last time they were watered. He said, never. No one's even seen them since they were planted, and information we gathered from our watering today would be of service determining how the seedlings are maturing. Having filled our water bags and grabbed our lunches, Gerry, Jessica, Diana, and I drove not along Aiken Mine Road like we had yesterday, but started up another road just on the other side of the ranch, on another unsigned dirt track called Deer Springs Road. Jessica and Diana both had the location of our watering sites marked on their Survey 123 app, and we headed out toward the top of Cima Dome. Today's mission was to water seedlings in 4 different planting areas. Diana, looking at it logistically, brought up that while we could water all 24 seedlings in one big loop, it would involve hiking further distances hauling that heavy water. We decided as a group to split up into 2 groups, Diana and I heading southwest, while Gerry and Jessica headed southeast from the vehicles. We could meet up back somewhere in the middle for lunch before hiking back to the cars. Sounded like a good plan to me, so we exchanged cell phone numbers since we did have cell phone coverage up here in the dome, and we began walking away from our vehicles into the burn zone. For a short ways, we hiked together until Jessica, looking at her map on her tablet, made a turn heading uphill. Diana and I straight ahead toward a large rock outcrop on the horizon. Well, we're starting our hike this morning. We gotta hike 3 miles out with these packs. And in each pack is 2.5 gallon water containers. Talking 5 gallons, 8 pounds a gallon, 40 pounds. Uphill through a burnt Joshua tree forest in the sand. It's gonna be a tough day. Good thing is, when we get to the watering location, we can dump the water. It'll be downhill all the way back. We're gonna earn our money today. Diana and I had a tremendous view overlooking the desert from near the top of Cima Dome, overlooking the Mojave Desert as the sands and burnt Joshua trees spanned the entire horizon. I followed Diana as she occasionally glanced down at her phone to get the nearest approximate location in relation to the trees we were assigned to water. Still got about a mile to go, she said, and we're getting a little high up on the dome, gotta head that way, pointing around the jagged rocks toward the mountains in the distance. About now, I realized it was just us 2, out here all alone. There wasn't anyone to help us if we got lost or injured, and we really were out in the middle of nowhere. Luckily, we had exchanged phone numbers, and yet I couldn't believe we still had cell coverage. After another 20 minutes of hiking through the sand and around a rock outcrop and zigzagging around fallen burnt Joshua trees, she glanced down at her phone again and said, "We're close." Immediately, I began looking around. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. I thought, there's nothing out here, just a bunch of old dead trees. Then I spotted a wire cage sitting oddly in the open slope uphill. "Hey, that's it," I shouted. Diana said the remaining 5 in this planting zone should be within about a 50-foot diameter. Given this additional information, other trees slowly began to appear. Not a whole tree, mind you, just an unusual dirt berm shaped into a circle. We began to spread out, and one by one we located all 6 trees. Now, I don't know what I expected, but the trees are really no bigger than the ones we planted yesterday. They only stuck out of the soil about 6 to 8 inches. I guess I imagined taller trees, but at least they all seemed healthy. I hurriedly opened my pack, or actually Jessica's pack, and removed one of the 2.5 gallon water bags. Each one gets 1/3 of a bag, Diana reminded me. But fix the berm first. No sense wasting water if we don't have to. Okay, the goal here is to take about 1/3 of this bag. We have 3 Joshua trees I have to water. So I'm going to put 1/3 of it in this one, and then I have 2 more I have to do. Well, good drink there, little buddy. All right, 1 down, 2 to go. Now I went to work watering my 3 trees while Diana did the same. I carefully pulled out the weeds growing in the berm and inspected each seedling for damage. They all look great, green and healthy. All right, this one is number 49. That berm doesn't look as good here, so let's go nice and slow and easy. Let all this soak in. I still got quite a bit of water left. We hauled out 2.5 gallon water bags, so this is just one of them. Carefully, I poured water from the spout on the water bag, taking careful measure to make sure none was wasted. Well, this is Joshua tree number 049. And Diana's over there. She's watering her 3. I've got my 3. Boy, that soaks in fast. Really fast. All right. All right, this is the 3rd Joshua tree. When Diana was finished, she began updating the information on the Survey 123 app and taking additional photos. When our task was complete, we re-shouldered our packs and started heading back toward the vehicles. Now, we'd only watered half of our assigned dozen trees. The next planting group lay slightly north and west of our location, and Diana began calculating our route. We traveled a short distance quickly and repeated the location, watering, and inspection of our last set of trees. When we were all done, Diana called Jessica on her phone, but the call didn't go through. Our cell signal had somehow been lost here. I tried calling Gerry on my cell phone, but to no avail. We had planned on meeting about halfway back to the vehicles for lunch, but decided to just start hiking back, hoping to see them off in the distance as we triangulated our prospective locations. Diana and I, or maybe I should say me, talked most of the way back. We had great conversations about many things, and I enjoyed her company. Hopefully I wasn't too inquisitive or nosy for her, but she readily answered all the questions I asked. I kept looking for Gerry and Jessica off in the distance, and at one point Diana belted out a funny "caw," looking for a return answer, but Jessica didn't answer. It was all quiet. Diana shot an azimuth back to the car, and we followed it mostly. We arrived back at the Jeep, and I dug out my folding chair to sit down. I offered the chair to Diana, but she said she was fine just sitting in the dirt between the vehicles in the shade while we ate lunch. About 30 minutes later, we saw Gerry and Jessica walking toward us along the dirt track. Evidently, they had taken the higher route on the dome, and they had made a left turn along the track back to the cars. Our drive back along Deer Springs Road went quickly, Jessica riding in my Jeep, and Diana in Gerry's Tahoe. When we finally arrived back at the Valley View Ranch, we met Drew again, who was tending to supplies in the roundabout when we pulled in. We unloaded our supplies, Drew carefully checking to make sure we weren't taking any of those Mojave National Preserve blue buckets home as souvenirs. I gotta admit, I was thinking about it. I have to admit, it was touching that we all hugged each other goodbye, as somehow we all felt this sense of attachment over only a short time, all because of a few little trees. Diana and Jessica were staying one more night to finish the planting and watering tomorrow. Sunday, March 14th was the last day of the restoration for the spring. Now, Gerry and I were heading out of the preserve back to civilization and the hordes of broke travelers returning home from Vegas. Gerry and I made a quick stop off in Baker to top off our gas tanks and get something to eat at the Arby's drive-thru restaurant before heading south on Interstate 15 back to Southern California. The time went quickly as traffic was light, being a Saturday evening. We bided our time talking on the ham radio about our adventure and thoughts about future plans to further explore the Sierra High Country. Who knows, maybe this fall we'll be back to check on our little guys all alone in the vast open desert of the Mojave Preserve. Since I took accurate GPS coordinates of Dave's father's tree, I could head out there anytime I want, check on the Theodore Adolph Ginther tree, and maybe I can bring Dave. Well, that'll do it for this edition of the Journal and the series, the Cima Dome Joshua Tree Restoration. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other edition of the Journal, feel free to drop me a note on the comment section below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and tap that notification bell to get the latest updates as I post them. In the next edition of the Journal, I take not one, but 2 hikes to an unlikely scenic lake and visit the site of one of the largest Indian massacres in California, as I complete the Vail Lake Loop and hike to the Oak Mountain. Both of them. Well, there's more to that story. That'll be in the next edition. Anyway, take care, and I'll see you down the trail. Bye-bye.
That little guy is probably the best strength you're going to ever see in your life.
We'll get another one in a little while.
Yeah, we'll come back around and let that settle in again. Cool.